Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Niche. So this is our second webinar on electronic invoicing. Today, we are going to talk about how to prepare for the upcoming e-invoicing legislation in the UAE. So as I said, this is our second webinar. This is going to be for 30 minutes, and this is also being recorded. There is a Q&A button. And if you have any questions, please raise it on the Q&A, and we will try and answer them as much as possible. We had an introductory webinar on 16th of July, which was an hour-long session, and we spoke at length about electronic invoicing as well as the electronic invoicing legislation that's upcoming in the UAE. If you have missed it or you want to refresh your knowledge about these, the presentation that we had recorded at the time, that's available on our YouTube channel. This is how it looks. We have already shared links to this on social media as well as through email, and now we will again be sharing it through the chat or Q&A button. And in case you still are unable to access, please send us an email to info@nishe.me, and we will then send you the link. And also, incidentally, in the last presentation, I had asked a little bit of a fun question, which is to identify this picture that you see on the screen. And as a matter of fact, one of the attendees actually answered the question, but unfortunately, we could not identify the individual. So if you are attending the session or if you're listening to this, please send in your contact details to info@nishe.me so we can send you the little gift that we promised. Right, so a little bit of introductions. The team today is the same as last time, so I'll make it very brief. I am Nashida. I am the founder and managing director of Nishe. Nishe is a boutique professional services firm based in Dubai. We focus on clientele in the GCC. We provide professional services around accounting, around taxation, around finance transformation, et cetera, et cetera. And my partner here is Venkat. Venkat represents Taxilla, who is our technology partner. Taxilla has extensive experience in electronic invoicing around the world. Venkat himself is a specialist in multi-country e-invoicing rollouts. Nishe and Taxilla have worked together in KSA, so we have partnered together in KSA, and now we are partnering together in the UAE as well. We will do a little bit of a refresh of the main points that we covered in introduction. And if you want more details, like I said, please go back to our YouTube channel. But just a quick refresh, so we are set well for the upcoming slides on how to prepare. So first, what is electronic invoicing? E-invoicing means generating, exchanging, and storing invoices in a structured digital format. Now, many of you may be sending invoices through PDF or as digital images. They are digital, but they do not meet the criteria of being a structured digital format. A structured digital format, that is an electronic invoice, is machine readable as opposed to human readable. So when something like e-invoicing is being excuse me, I think there was some problem with my camera. Now you can see me, hopefully. So when something like electronic invoicing is being implemented at a countrywide level, this is effectively an automation at a countrywide level of the whole invoicing process. So for UAE rollout, the timeline that's been announced, there's been no change since our last introduction. Jan 2026 will be the pilot phase, and July 2026, the phase one begins. Phase one is expected to be for the larger organizations. However, what is the criteria for determining the larger organizations? When will phase two be, etc., or the subsequent phases be? The rollout strategy has not yet been announced, so we are waiting for that information. The UAE e-invoicing is for B2B and B2G businesses. So that means all the businesses that are catering to other businesses and to the government. B2C businesses are currently not in scope, but that doesn't mean that B2C businesses don't have to do anything, because your buyer, your sellers, your local sellers will be sending you electronic invoices, and you have to be ready to receive them. So be careful that you may have to do something. UAE follows an approach called PEPOL five-corner model. An understanding of this approach is extremely important in understanding the whole electronic invoicing framework. We spoke extensively through PEPOL five-corner model in our introductory session. We will speak through it a little bit again, just to refresh your memory. The legislation status, nothing much has changed from when we spoke last time. The key difference is authorized service providers. So some authorized service providers have already been registered. When we spoke last time, the registration process had just commenced, but now we have, if you see, there's a list of authorized service providers who are already registered on the portal, and more are upcoming, and we're hoping that we will be reaching that status soon. So your approach, as I said, e-invoicing is mandatory for all B2B and B2G businesses, which is virtually all the businesses in the country, including those which are not VAT registered. So this is a compliance requirement, but our recommendation to you is do not treat it just as a compliance requirement, because this is automation at a large scale, and when done properly, you can get significant productivity efficiency benefits from this. And what we recommend to you is to treat it as a cue to transform the way you run the business, you operate the business. Now, the PEPOL five-corner model. Yeah. So five corners simply means five parties, right? When we as Nishe send an invoice to our client, there are two parties. There's we as the seller, and then our client as the buyer. Now, what happens in e-invoicing is we add two more parties. That is, we as a seller should have an access point, and the buyer should have an access point. In the last presentation, Venkat used the analogy of telecom service provider when referring to access points, and I thought that's a really good analogy. So if I have to make a phone call to you, then I have to be registered with a telecom service provider, and you have to be registered with a telecom service provider. It could be Taxilla, it could be two. So that's the only way we can access the telecom network. Same way, the only way the seller and buyer can access the e-invoicing network is by registering with specific access points or specific authorized service partners. So who are these authorized service partners? These are companies or businesses that are registered with FTA and are regulated by FTA. So they have been given the license or the permission to act as such. And like I said earlier, there's a list that you will see in FTA portal, and you will have to pick up an apt ASP for your business from there. The fifth corner, the fifth party in this entire flow of invoice is FTA, which means that every time we send an invoice, relevant information from that invoice goes to the federal tax authority on a real-time or a near real-time basis. Now, one key update from the last time we did the session is that we can actually send attachments with the electronic invoice. Now, as you know, when we send invoices to clients, we may send timesheets, we may send delivery notes, etc., along with it. Now, the e-invoicing, PEPOL e-invoicing system allows you to send attachments. Venkat, would you want to add something more from a technical point of view at this point?
Yes, Nashida, thank you. Very good afternoon to everyone. So one of the important point what you are seeing is MLS. MLS stands for message level status. So all five corner model with telecom example, I think everyone understood. Coming to the MLS, this is the proof to the seller that invoice is exchanged across all corners. So as soon as corner 2, which is ASP, seller's ASP, submit that invoice to FTA as well as to the buyer's ASP. So FTA is going to give response accepted or rejected. If it is rejected with some reason, similarly, buyer access point also will give you the response accepted and forwarded to buyer, accepted and not forwarded to buyer, or rejected. These are the responses corner 2. Seller's access point will capture and submit it to seller. So that is a proof to the seller. It means that invoice is exchanged across all 5 corners. Let's say if you take example of export invoices, that invoices will be only sent to FTA if you are doing any transaction with Saudi where PayPal is not at all there. So you will get a response C5 FTA accepted and C3 buyer's access point or buyer is not on the PayPal network. So that is the indication to the seller to generate PDF and submit to the buyer who are based out of Saudi or wherever PayPal is not mandatory. Similarly, it is going to get mandatory in phases in UAE, not right from the day one to all the companies. So from July 1st, let's say 5,000 companies are in PayPal network, rest all are not on the PayPal network. So how are you going to exchange invoices? Means this is the proof. When you send invoice to corner 2, you will get a response back, MLS, accepted by FTA or not accepted by buyer or buyer is not on the PayPal network. That is the response for you. Based upon that response, MLS, you need to further decide and submit the invoice to the buyer. So that's all I have to add.
Thanks, Venkat. So now we get on to how to prepare for invoicing. So what we have here is a 5-step process in order to prepare for invoicing, and we'll just talk through this 5-step process. Yeah. So the very first step to prepare for something like electronic invoicing is, because it's a compliance requirement, you have to understand the regulatory landscape. And there's quite a lot of information out there. There is an MOF portal on which updates are being posted by the Ministry of Finance. And plus there's some amount of legislation that we can already see. Plus there are, guidance, there are webinars like this. So you have to ensure that someone is monitoring this, someone is actually reviewing all this documentation or attending sessions like this in order to understand the regulatory landscape. And when we look at regulatory landscape, there are fundamentally 2 things that matter. One, we're talking about electronic invoice. Obviously, it's all about invoice. So there are 2 things here. One is the type of invoice that you issue. And second is the data fields that are required in each invoice. So there's extensive guidance already, not necessarily finalized, but there is extensive guidance already around around the invoice type and the data fields. And so you need to assess this and look at and map to the invoice types to your business scenarios, because not all of them may be applicable for you. And then you also have to look at the data fields to see what kind of data are available and are required for e-invoicing and in what format are they required. And then to look at the reality of your business to see if it is already there. So these 2 are absolutely critical when we try and understand the regulatory landscape. And the second point is the go live deadline. As we said earlier, this is going to be implemented in phases. So depending upon the nature of your business or size of your business, depending upon the criteria that the government comes out with for different phases, you will probably fit in X phase or Y phase. So you will need to monitor that. Now, one thing that I really want to reiterate here is that if anyone of you has ever implemented a system, you do know that go live is not the end point. After go live, there are usually fine tunings, usually problems, and so on and so forth. So by the time it works well, it takes some more time after that. So when you plan, please do not plan at the end, because on the go live date, as per on the phase, on the deadline that the government puts for you, based on whichever phases you are in, you will have to be fully ready with all your problems and with all your issues, everything ironed out. So please plan accordingly. Please plan to go live early rather than
That's the
late.
reason there is something called pilot phase introduced by FTA. If any
Yeah.
company or any taxpayer would like to take advantage of it, yes, they can go ahead and take the advantage of it.
Absolutely. Venkat is an absolute fan of pilot phase. So I think we have another slide coming up where he's putting up some advantages of going with the pilot phase. Right. Then once we have an understanding of regulatory landscape, the next step is to identify stakeholders. And the very first stakeholder is the most important stakeholder is the business operations, because this is about your sales invoice and your purchase invoice. Obviously, operations are the ones who are dealing with it. They are the end users and they need to adopt it. They need to be involved in the whole entire implementation process from start till the end. and they need to be involved in defining the requirements, et cetera, et cetera. But they are not the only people who are involved. Finance and accounting are involved. They have to be involved because this affects VAT compliance, this affects reporting, this affects AR/AP workflows, IT, obviously, because this is an automation project. So you may need to upgrade systems, you may need to bring new systems integrations, and so on and so forth. Tax and legal, tax from a compliance point of view, legal as well. And also you may have contracts that you may need to amend, especially, with your customers, your suppliers. You may have new contracts that you need to enter into with various parties. Therefore, legal department will also have to get involved, and definitely procurement, because you will need to onboard new vendors. This is obviously not something that a business can do on its own. You will need to get help with respect to the functional assessment. You may need to get help. You will need with the technical assessment. You will need an ASP on board. Therefore, procurement has to be involved in all of these. Now, a project lead is critical for something like this because of the nature of the project, because of the the pervasive nature of the project. So the responsibility of the project manager will be to drive the project, to coordinate tasks, and then they act as the primary point of contact. And the other important thing is obviously money, budget, because this involves various, not just appointing ASPs and the consultants, but then there may be system changes, integrations, testing, training, and support post go live. So things don't end on go live. Support post go live, you need support as well. Therefore, there is money involved. And because this is a regulatory requirement, this is not something that you can push. It needs to be done. Therefore, you have to engage finance early to streamline approval and ensure sufficient funds flow. Now, these three stages that we spoke about, they are like preparation for the preparation. And then the real part of the preparation is conducting the readiness assessment. And then based on everything that you've done, determining what kind of authorized service provider that you need. So I'm going to ask Venkat, with all his extensive experience in e-invoicing around the world, to give us more detail and practical details around this area. Venkat, over to you.
The major challenge would be invoicing workflow, which what we have mentioned on the screen. So what is going to happen mainly is now your finance users are habituated to send PDF. If they are sending PDF over the email, it means they submitted the invoice. So finance user work is done, task is completed. Then later on following up for the payments or whatever eventually will happen to the same treadmill what exactly invoice are sent. But this is the current process what is happening today. But what has to be processed once e-invoice becomes mandatory? There is no more paper invoice, no more PDF. How exactly finance user is going to be satisfied with the process of e-invoicing? That is something. So it's all going to be automation process. No more paper invoice, no more PDF. It means you need to understand once you click a button in your ERP or once you send data to ASP, what is going to happen is you will see the response. That response itself a answer to the finance user. Okay, invoice is submitted to the buyer. Fine. So that is something, it's a typically change of the mind to the finance user. This is going to be a very, very difficult task for any company to adapt. So that's the reason this is the see most of the companies thinks that e-invoicing is again a compliance. It's not at all a compliance in my point of view. It is the first step for digital transformation. So there is nothing is going to happen manually. So whatever manual tasks you are doing, everything you have to streamline. So we at the same time procurement side, if you talk about invoicing, someone is going to receive PDF. One of your finance user or procurement side user, they will make an entry in the ERP. At the time of making an entry, they may miss some amounts or whatever. In that scenario, it leads to human error. So now no more paper invoice receive also. You are going to receive invoices directly from the ASP in a structured format, which is XML. Automatically that invoice is loaded to the ERP. Imagine how much of cost benefit to any company because of this e-invoicing. You are no more making an entry in the ERP to record a purchase transaction. Everything is happening automatically. So that is the biggest change every company has to think about. So Coming to the data fields, there are certain mandatory fields given by FTA. So 50 mandatory fields are there. On top of it, attachments comes into picture. Even in case if you want to send payment receipt, even you can send payment. There are many optional fields are there. At the same time, 50 are the mandatory fields. So most of the company will focus on the mandatory fields. So we need to review whether all the mandate fields are available in the ERP or not. If something is not available, how we have to add that field. You need to understand not only that field, every field has its own values. Let's say, for example, 388 for tax invoice, 380 for summary, 381 for credit note, 383 for debit note. These are the certain lookups given by FTA for some fields like invoice types or whatever. You need to even add those kind of lookups within your ERP. It is going to be a huge task for any company to do this assessment. This is the major task for the e-invoicing. If you do the right assessment in the ERP, 50% of the work is done. Rest of 50% is about understanding the to be flow, consulting, all that comes into picture. But this plays a major and critical role for any ERP or any taxpayer to get ready. So again, data quality, clean up the errors, clean up the masters. You are not even storing TRN number, system readiness. Your ERP may even ready to integrate with ASP or not via API. If it is not ready, what are the challenges you are going to face? How to get ready? So all these plays major roles. So coming to the how to research a right ASP partner, first you need to evaluate that ASP partner, whether they are having experience in e-invoicing. Yes, if they have experience in e-invoicing, they are accredited by FTA. Okay, they are accredited. Then are they having PayPal experience earlier? Are they operating in any other country like Malaysia, Belgium, wherever PayPal is there? That all criteria you need to consider, and data transformations like mapping, validation, who are going to add those fields, everything those plays a major role. Majorly what is happening is any ERP is not supporting PNTI XML. You may face challenges to generate PNTI XML. That's where transformation plays major role. Integration capabilities. So API is the only integration. If it is not API, are they providing any alternate methods like SFTP or file upload, whatever? Extended services. Are they providing value more than e-invoicing? Let's say same data, you can use it for VAT reporting. Even you can use it for invoice to pay automation, invoice to cash automation process. This is something which plays major role. Support. Here is the major thing. See, once you, as Nashida mentioned earlier, once you go live, post go live support is required. In the post go live, the major problem is whatever we implemented or if someone implemented, it will keep on working. But who is going to monitor the changes that is happening within the FTA website or even in the PayPal? So PayPal and FTA will keep on doing changes to it. Someone has to monitor and someone has to inform to the taxpayer these are the changes which are happening. So that you will also know what is happening. You will keep on getting ready for those changes. This plays a major role. So coming to the outcomes, we need to understand as is and to be process, functional assessment. So what type of invoices you generate, e-invoices, all those things comes into picture. IT system readiness, whether your ERP is ready or not. Data gap, who is taking to take ownership of those data gaps also. We need to define proper RACI matrix, who is responsible and accountable for what. So workflow for e-invoicing, and similarly what is going to happen is finally you will be getting a stakeholder report with clear action plan, including ASP selection criteria, budget and timeline. This will be a final stakeholder report, what we are going to submit after the assessment. So next steps is get ready for the go live. Similarly, pilot phase now. Pilot phase, I'm not a huge fan of pilot phase, Nashita, but there are many advantages of some company having pilot phases. So early complaints, you can get ready for e-invoicing very early. You can have a peace of mind, sufficient time for fine tuning. See, the advantage is no penalties at all. If you're doing something wrong in pilot phase, that's fine. You can always correct it. No, there is no one going to penalize you. But same thing is happening from July. You need to justify to FTA why you did that mistake. Okay, that's the bigger problem. Reduce business disruptions, direct support from FTA. This is the major advantage. FTA is going to support you in the pilot phase. So FTA will take your feedback, whether it's working or not, you need some changes or not. This is the advantage going to, these are the major advantages.
Yeah, and I love the no penalty, especially since we live in Dubai. Right. So those are the 5 steps that you need to do in order to prepare for electronic invoicing. And mind you, that is just preparation phase. And then after that, there is the whole implementation phase. So how can we help both Nishe and Taxilla? So we can help based on, because we have got both business and accounting expertise as well as the technical expertise. So together we can help end to end from assessment, your e-invoicing strategy, all the way through to implementation, go live, and post go live as well. Now, as I said, this is the second webinar, and we are planning a 5-webinar series on electronic invoicing. The next one that we plan on 7th October is going to be on data dictionary, gap analysis, and common mistakes and pitfalls. So we will send you the invite for these, and we strongly suggest you attend this, because like we said earlier, the data, because this is about invoicing, the types of invoices and the data that is required in those invoices are the most critical parts of this entire e-invoicing thing. We'll do another webinar on integration with source system, and also we'll demonstrate our product, which is planned for October last week. And then we will do another session called Beyond Electronic Invoicing, how you can use e-invoicing to drive finance automation. We're currently planning it in mid-November, but we will share the exact details as we proceed forward. So that's it for today. It's 1:56. We have 4 minutes. If you have any questions, please keep them coming in. Yeah, someone is asking, can we please share the PPT? Yes, we will share the PowerPoint presentation for all the registered attendants. Right. Are there any further questions? So what should you look for when you're selecting an ASP? Venkat spoke about it a little bit already, and we're going to have, I think in the 5th session, we are specifically also covering this particular topic. Yeah. Venkat, I think this is a question for you, if you can answer. So someone is asking if we can use the software in personal websites through API.
Oh, where is that question? I can't see somehow. Okay, but what is the question? Can you read it for me once again? Sorry.
Can we use this software in personal website through API?
Yes, so API is something every ASP is going to support you so that you can integrate directly with your software. Answer is yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it required?
I
So
think
there's
now questions are coming now.
Yeah, so there's a question whether it's required to be translated into Arabic, and the answer is no. English is the language for electronic invoicing in the UAE. Arabic is not mandated. At least that's the guidance as per the FAQs. Yeah. Venkat, do you want to read the next set of questions?
Can we use this software in personal? Yeah, that answered. What is the exact implementation timeline for UAE? So implementation will differ from company to company. It will take 6 to 8 weeks, or it depends upon the number of systems they have, how many, it's a group VAT ID and all that, but typically 6 to 8 weeks. So that's what going to happen. And for assessment, all that will take another 4 to 6 weeks. So what are the mandatory invoice data field formats? So what are the mandatory invoice? There are 50 fields are available as per FTA. So you can find it even in the FTA website at a high level, but not in detail. But if you need, you can reach out to Nashida. So how can business integrate legacy ERP? So API is the only option. If you are not able to integrate with the API, you need to look for alternate options like SFTP or file upload. Many ASPs don't support this, only few ASPs support. So whenever you are evaluating the vendor, you keep in mind. And the most important is only one ASP per TRN number. You can't select multiple ASPs. This is also one of the important points you have to keep in mind. So needed master data accuracy, let's say address, you need to clean it up. You need to add buyer electronic identifier, nothing but that PayPal ID, all such fields comes into picture. So how do I know if my current account supports e-invoicing? All you need to check is whether it is supporting API or not. If it is not supporting API integration, then we have to think about the alternate solution. But every ERP provides sales data. That sales data, you can use it to generate e-invoice. So we answered every question, I guess.
Right. And it is 2:00. So that's the end of our webinar today. Thank you for attending. This webinar will also go on our YouTube channel, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one, which is going to be about data dictionary. And this is on October 7th. We'll be circulating the invites shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, bye.